Hey guys, so this countdown is going to be a little different and very opinionated. In this video, we're going to count down the top 10 things that RuneScape taught me. And I say me because I started playing when I was just 10 years old back in 2004. And because of that fact, me only being 10 years old at the time, this game did in fact teach me a lot of stuff. Now, some people began playing when they were only 14 or 15, so the game may have not taught those people very much, whereas it taught me quite a bit. So this is how the countdown is based, and maybe some of you real old veterans out there like myself will be able to agree with some of the things I'm going to list, and for you newcomers that started in maybe 2008 or 2009, maybe you'll get a better understanding of what it was like starting the game at such an early age. Hope you guys enjoy. Number 10, organizing. Guys, I am a very OCD person when it comes to video games. If any of you were to play Minecraft with me, you would hate me. I feel like everything should have its place, and the placing of that item that has been put into its place should have its place for a specific reason. What the hell did Moplox just say? I wasn't like this in the beginning. I didn't organize my bank or anything when I was a kid, but as time went on, I felt the need to. And I suppose you could say some of that did carry over into the real world. It's really interesting to me when I see videos or screenshots of players' banks. I try to find out the reasoning behind why it's set up like it is, or how its organization could potentially help them be more efficient at the game. And then of course there's those people I would literally love to organize their bank for them. Structure, I guess, could be another word for it. This game gives me a sense of structure. Now, don't get me wrong, when I was a kid, my mom had to bribe me with $1 just to clean my room, but when it came to RuneScape, I was organized, and I had structure. And maybe it was like that because my account was my own, and I wanted to be proud of it. Number 9, puzzles and problem solving. Now, I'll be the first to tell you guys that a clue scroll puzzle box will literally stop me from playing this great game for about a day or two if I'm not able to complete it within 15 minutes. In short, I still suck at puzzles, but I don't suck near as much as when I was a kid. Sorry, guys. Oh, God. I literally had my mom do the puzzle for me during the Monkey Madness quest when I was like 11 because I didn't have 200k to pay the guy to skip it, and I was so bad at puzzles back then. Just recently, actually, with an elite clue scroll, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, I had my sister do the puzzle box for me because I was about to throw my computer out the window. So I guess you could say that RuneScape really hasn't made me very skilled at puzzles, and it's very debatable, of course, but I'd like to think that I'm not as bad at them as I was. I'm still very bad at them, but not as bad as I was 10 years ago. Number 8, sparing and rationing. If you really think about it, this game is basically a simulator when it comes to building a life for your own player. You hone your skills for survival, whether that means fighting or knowing when to have patience, knowing how to negotiate, and knowing when to not fight. Especially if you're an Iron Man, gathering your own food and making your own money from what's been given to you. This game taught me how to wait for a better opportunity to come. Whenever I first died in the game, it didn't take long for me to realize that this game was all about patience and waiting for the right time to eat food, or waiting for a price to drop on an item so I could buy it for less. Some of that carried over into the real world too, without me even knowing, I suppose. I learned how to save money and avoid temptation, and sometimes just to keep my mouth shut and not complain and just wait. I played this game for 11 years, and when you do anything for that long, it's gonna change who you are as a person, even if it's just a game. But then again, I was really young and impressionable. Nevertheless, I'd still say that the reasoning behind some of the patience I have in my life comes from this game. Number 7, spelling and speech. Now, I can say for sure that this game had a big impact on that part of my life. I learned how to use context clues and such. Now, I still don't speak very goodly with my proper grammar and all that, but I think that comes from just being raised in Oklahoma. But when I write something down on paper, I'd like to think that I can word things pretty well. I remember when I was a kid, I didn't know how to pronounce the word chaos, and keep in mind, I was only 10 years old, okay? I thought it was pronounced chouse for the longest time. I'd always be asking my friends, can I borrow some chaos runes? And in my mind, when I typed it, I was thinking, can I borrow some chouse runes? I still pronounce herblore as herblore sometimes, even though the word herb, obviously the H is silent. I do know that for a fact, though, that my vocabulary was a little more skilled than most in my elementary school classes because of this game, though. Whenever the teacher would call me to read out loud out of the book, I never stuttered, and I knew how to word sentences based off of their punctuation. And in fact, I think my ability to read things and understand what I'm reading at the same time has really come from this game. Number 6, communicating. You learn very quickly that communication plays a big part in this game. Back in the old times, Iron Man mode wasn't a thing, or wasn't even thought of really, it just didn't exist. And everyone communicated with others to get ahead in this game and learn more about it. I think some of this may have carried over into the real world for me while I was growing up. I mean, I already knew how to communicate with people, that comes naturally as a human being, but when it came to communicating for specific reasons to get what I wanted or to help someone else get what they wanted, the logical side of it all came partly from this game. When you're typing on a keyboard behind a monitor and are talking to someone else that you know is 1,000 miles away, communication becomes easy due to the lack of shyness that would come with communicating with people in the real world, I think. You don't hold back talking to a person on a game, and a little bit of that carried over for me into the real world as well. Number 5, improvising. What is this game if not a teacher of improvisation? Whether you're going somewhere and forgot something you needed and now it's too late to turn back now, or if it's something as simple as trying to figure out an easier transportation route to go from point A to point B a little bit quicker to reach your goal. PKers probably know this better than anybody, I'd have to say. Like when you run out of food and have to use objects around you to escape from other players killing you, and the same thing goes for monsters too sometimes. I think all aspects of life include improvisation at some degree, and I believe that this game isn't any different because, once again, you are building a life for your player. I'm not sure how much this game taught me about improvisation in the real world, but I can honestly say that playing RuneScape was a whole different kind of improvisation that I had to learn that no other game had. The PvP and PvM of RuneScape is a lot different than other games out there in my personal opinion, and learning how to survive and improvise to survive was one of the best parts about growing up with this game and learning it all for the first time. Number 4, sharing. Nobody likes a beggar. But beggars always seem to usually get something anyway. Just as in the real world, I personally believe that there are those in RuneScape who do, and those who don't. There are some people who go out and get what they want and don't stop until they have it, no matter how much work or effort it takes. And then there are those who are just plain lazy and want everybody to pity them, and that's how they get what they want. And then there's people like me who don't mind doing what has to be done to get something, but also don't mind giving it away even after all the work it took to get it, just because I think I see some good in somebody even when it might not even be there sometimes. This game taught me how to share even when I didn't want to, or knew I'd have nothing left if I did share what little I did have. I've literally given my entire bank away at one point in time just because I figured the people I gave it to needed it more than I did, because I didn't mind having to work to build it back up, and mainly I gave it all away because I knew that even just for a few minutes I made that person happy during their life, even though they would probably never remember who I am again after a week. I'm not a pushover by any means, but if I really think somebody needs something, or is in need of having just a few minutes of brightness in their life compared to the unknown amount of time of darkness they might have been experiencing, well, then I'm happy to work a little harder to regain what I've given away. That's the way I was raised, and that's the way I handle anything in my life, including this game. Number 3, cautiousness. Just as I and others like myself are generous, I knew there would be people who would try and take advantage of that. This was something I learned in the game first before really ever experiencing it in the real world, apart from me being so young when I first started. There were a lot of people who played the game that were years older than me, and they knew how to take advantage of younger kids like myself at that time, I suppose. I was very dumb when it came to trading, and checking the second trade screen was something I had to learn the hard way. I realized that trusting people wasn't something to be done lightly, and that there were others out there that didn't care if you worked for what you had. After a while, it became pretty easy to differentiate between a person who was sincere and a person who was a sincere assholic. That carried over into the real world too. I knew when someone was trying to play me or get one over on me after a while. I was pretty skilled at sensing who was a trustable person that I should be hanging around and who wasn't. And oddly enough, for those of you who remember it, the number one thing that taught me caution and who should be trusted and who shouldn't be from this game was the, air quote, trust game itself. Number 2, typing. I think those of us that began playing the game at an early age can all agree that we would all suck 100% at typing if it had not been for this game. I don't know how many words I can type a minute, but I do know for sure that I was one of the best typers in my computer classes I had during middle school because of this game. When I got to class, the teacher would always get mad at me because I didn't type the way she wanted me to, or the way that was supposedly proper, where my index finger should be placed on the keyboard. When I type, I only use my index finger on my left hand, and I use my middle finger and index finger on my right hand, and apparently that's wrong. As you can see in this video, I type pretty well for the way I choose to do it, at least in my opinion. All of my friends are always asking how I type so fast, and for a long time I never told them that it was because of RuneScape. But nowadays, I don't mind telling people it's because of a game I played when I was a kid, but most of the time, I just tell them it's because I'm a super nerd. Number 1, kindness. Above all of the things that I learned from this game that carried over into the real world for me was kindness. I've made some really great friendships from this game. Now, I've had people tell me, oh, they're not really your friend, they live 1,000 miles away, blah 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 blah, but I've had people trust me with things that took them hard work to achieve, just as I've trusted others with things of mine that I eventually got back later without even asking for it back. The thing I've come to realize, especially with running this YouTube channel, is that people commenting, just as people communicating with me in game, are real people, near or far. Behind all the nice words I've seen written to me over the internet is a person that took time out of their day and took time out of whatever type of life they may be living right now to say them. And that goes a long way with me. The world we live in nowadays is in such bad shape, I'd say, and I truly believe that the only reason it has gotten this far is because of people who do exist out there and do have the same type of kindness in their hearts. In fact, my friend Corin's actually coming down from Missouri to see me in July for the first time, and we plan on just hanging out like regular friends and duo streaming while he's here too. That person that you're fighting with in the comment section, or that person you're replying to, is actually another human being in the world that will sit down and read what you're saying. And I've always been taught to say what you mean and mean what you say, because it goes a much longer way than the length of miles between you two sometimes. And I believe that's why the community of RuneScape, and the community of this channel as well, is one of the best that I've ever been privileged to be a part of. Thanks for watching, guys. Like I said, I started this game at 11 years ago. When you're 10 years old, you're very impressionable, and in many ways, RuneScape definitely helped me understand a lot of things faster than I would have understood them in the real world. And I assume that a lot of others feel the same way about the game this way too. No matter what strange places I end up in my life, I'll always remember how to get to Lumbridge to Draenor the fastest way, or I'll always remember how to cut through Edgeville to get to the GE quicker, and how to go from Varrock to Alcarid 2 different ways. To me, and others like me, I believe this game is a form of comfort, something you know you can always come back to, and know how to do or where to go. Often sometimes I wonder what kind of a person I would be if I never played this game, and honestly, I'll never know. Whether I would have been more productive in life, or whether the circumstances of my life without RuneScape would have made me a bitter and angry person for the rest of it. Either way though, I'll never regret pressing that login button for the first time. So the game may have not taught those people very much, whereas it twat. Wow. I quit. I give up. First person to comment on this video is the new moat. All hail new moat.